for a public hearing on substitute Senate Bill 5323. We have already been briefed on this bill, so I'm going to call up Holly Chiza and Jan G.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I'm Jan G., president of the Washington Food Industry Association, which is your independent grocers and convenience stores in your community, here to appear in support of substitute Senate Bill 5323. This is not our bill, but I have to really commend the sponsors and the advocates who worked very diligently with us since last November to give us every amendment we need to accept the bill and to actually implement it in the real world. We looked at it and decided one state consistent policy is much better than 27 different ones. The two provisions in there that are with the fiscal note, the first one being the education at the Department of Ecology. This is very, very important to us so that the public understands the banning of the bag film, because that's the dominant bag in our industry. The second one is a 10-cent fee in there, because moving us from a film bag that costs 2 to 3 cents to what is required in here, a 3-millimeter plastic bag, which is going to cost our industry 11 to 12 cents, is a huge, huge fiscal impact on the industry. And I know the bag fee is also intended to motivate the consumer to bring their usable bags. So we commend this bill to you. Thank you very much.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee, or afternoon. Day's getting away from me. I am Holly Chiza here on behalf of the Northwest Grocery Association, and we are also here now in support of 5323. The bill does create a statewide standard for the handling of both plastic and paper bags for everyone in the state. It does move all 27 ordinances to one standard. For those of my members who operate in all 39 counties in Washington, we would like one standard in how we handle these bags. Speaking to the fiscal note specifically, there is language requesting education, and we hope that the focus is on educating the public about the changes that are coming. For the 27 communities that already live within a bag framework, they're not going to see too much change. 25 out of the 27 use the model that's almost identical to this. But there are going to be communities that this is a new concept, and so the more public education we can do. Additionally, the retailers are also obligated to provide training to our own employees as part of the bill. That is not paid for through this fiscal note, but is done as our own responsibility, and we've agreed to that as well. So we would ask for your support of the bill. This is a unified agreement among most of retail as well as the environmental community and others, and we commend the bill to you and be happy to take any questions.
We do have a couple questions, which is why I called you up together. Senator Honeyford?
Well, thank you. I don't know how much of a question this is, but I was talking to an independent grocer, and she said that the paper bags cost her 12.5 cents. The plastic bag costs 2 cents, so she's going to lose half a cent on every bag she puts out. And then those that use the EBT card get the bags for free, so she's losing 12.5 cents a bag there. And I don't have my notes with me, but it's a significant cost to her grocery store.
So I'm trying to, yes, the film bags are 2 cents, and the paper bags are running us 10.5 to 12 cents. They've increased 16% in less than 3 years. There's quite a shortage on paper bags. You know, there is a cost to providing bags to customers. This is not a benefit to our industry. There's a slight increase in the cost of it. Bags cost money, and that's one of the reasons that we're requesting the 10 cents, because 5 cents that is in some of the communities now, it is a real killer for our industry. So this is at least better, but you're right, bags cost money.
And as consumers, we'll be paying for that cost.
Well, in large part, they will. And but the grocers are still going to be picking up a significant cost. I have the numbers for Rosars, which you're familiar with because they're in Eastern Washington. And their cost bottom line is going to be about $640,000, and this bill is going to cause an additional $19,000 to their costs. So it's not, bags aren't cheap business.
I will say the way to avoid paying the fee is to bring your own bag. And that's the way you avoid paying any of this, is to bring your own reusable.
Okay, Senator Honeyford, I'm going to move on to Senator Frocht.
Thank you. Holly, you mentioned 25 out of 27 communities are substantially have standards that comport with this proposed bill. Do you mind if I ask which of the two that are not?
Sure. So, and this is only sadly because I've driven all over this fine state and worked on all 27 of them. So there are two. Edmonds does not charge a fee. They were the very first ban in the state, and it's simply a ban on plastic and a move to paper. And I will say that for my stores, I have two in the city of Edmonds. When we made that move, the cost for those retailers has been around, on average, about $75,000 additional costs each year. When you put the ban on plastic and add the nickel, which is the predominance of the cities, it's 24 of them off the top of my head, then you see a reduction of almost entirely of plastic, and you see a drop of paper about 85%. There is one other city, which is North Bend, which has an optional fee to be charged that has not yet been implemented. So I can't tell you what the result of that's going to be yet.
Thank you.
Holly, can you explain to me, I'm in one of those communities with the ban, and if you mess up and don't bring your bag, you have to pay 5 cents, but it's my understanding that the grocer keeps the 5 cents. It's not.
That's correct.
Why did you all agree to have that pass through to the state instead of be used to recoup the costs at the grocery store?
I'm not sure. Why would we choose to keep the nickel?
It's not a pass-through to the
No,
state.
we keep the nickel.
Yeah.
And we would keep the dime under the new framework.
Okay, I misunderstood.
Yes.
I thought somehow that was raising revenue.
I appreciate your optimism, but no, the 10 cents does stay with the retailer.
We are required to pay sales tax and B&O tax in all those local communities, as well as in this bill, we have to pay the state and local options.
That's correct.
Do you understand why does this bill raise money for the state?
So as we read the fiscal note, and that might be a better question to ask of the fiscal note, there are two tax implications. There's the sales tax revenue that would be generated because you do have to charge sales tax on something that we're selling that is non-edible, is the basic framework. And then additionally, there is a B&O tax implication for our stores as they make that transition and folks start bringing their totes in. When you first start generating some revenue, and then it drops as people bring their own totes in. There's a B&O implication there.
Well, I'm glad I asked my question because I totally did not understand what was happening. Okay, thank you. Are there, Senator Darnielle?
Thank you very much. Holly, I am the original bag lady, I think, in Tacoma. I have so many bags that it's ridiculous. I can't forget them because when I go in the store, I don't buy the paper. Every store I shop in has their own store brand 99-cent bag that they can sell me. Instead of my paying the nickel, I will buy another bag at 99 cents.
Sure.
So, and hopefully I'll use it more than 20 times. There's no problem because I've become really addicted to using these bags. But the point is that the manufacturers have actually, the companies have actually found a way to benefit financially from the person's lack of awareness about bringing their bag with them by selling that product right there at the checkout stand. So do you have any idea what kind of income has come from that particular?
So what I'll say is what I know
It's not just me, I'm sure.
And not initially, no. But what we do see across the board is a hard pivot. And this bears out city after city or city. And I've asked them to run the numbers again, and it's the same numbers back again. When you make the move from plastic to paper and you put the fee on, you see a hard spike in the use of paper. And we do see an increase in the sale of those reusable totes as people think, oh, gosh, they're in the trunk of my car. Then there is a drop as everybody starts to make that behavioral change, which to Jan's point, if that's the change you want to make, that is the way to do it, is to put the fee on the paper bag. We don't sell as many of those reusable totes. We do have about 15% of the population in each community that continues to choose, or by whatever reason, continue to take that paper bag. But there's a spike and then a drop. So it's not a huge, we're sitting there, reeling in the coins. They're available because people do forget. There are people who want to get a new one. There are people who want a different size. But it's not a long-term investment prospect. We do see a shift as people do start to remember to bring those totes in.
Okay, thank you both very much. We need to keep moving. Kevin, do you have a question? Okay. Our next two people and last two people are Bill Stoffaker and Bruce Wishart.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Bill Stoffaker before you today on behalf of the American Forest and Paper Association in opposition to the bill. We see this, you just heard Holly tell you, 85% drop in bags use. As soon as these fees, they have that initial spike, they drop. We know it, we feel it, we see it. We have a couple of mills in this state, family wage, supporting jobs, and they're in rural Washington, and they make over 80% of the bag paper in this state. This is a direct shot at rural jobs. Most of the bag fees that are put into place in municipalities around the state have a 5-cent fee. This is 10 cents, in my opinion. My client would tell you that's too much. As a kid that grew up in a timber community, knowing the faces of families when a mill closed, I say it's greedy. The fiscal note, straight up, the fiscal note, if it's not based on that 85% drop, then you have in terms of the paper bag use, then you have a very flawed fiscal impact of what this means for revenue generated at the expense of consumers. Thank you.
Okay, we got a couple questions. So Bruce, hold on. Senator Mullet, then Senator Braun.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Hello.
I know we've discussed this bill offline, but I'm just still curious. Like, I look at where I live, Issaquah has the bag ban, so you can only get paper there. Sammamish, my next door city, has never done the bag ban. So when you go to any store in Sammamish, any store, you only get a plastic bag. So I'm just confused from the timber industry, like, where does the data come from? Because in my anecdotal world, the only place you see paper bags is Issaquah. Granted, I think that Holly's point about people use less bags is 100% accurate, but at least in Issaquah, those stores are buying paper bags versus Sammamish, they're buying zero. Like, how do you guys respond to that?
Well, one, we see it in mill production. I cannot, antitrust, I can't tell you, I can't show you the numbers. This is a matter of trust. You just got to believe me. Oh, gosh, of course. You'd love to see everything, but I'm going to keep my clothes on, Senator.
Senator, I think Senator Braun has a question.
But the bottom line is that we can't tell you those numbers. Here's what we know from Los Angeles: an immediate 30% drop in sales, and it continues downward. And the huge hit, if you took the population base in this state of the cities who have done the ban, the numbers are real. They sink. And you heard the retailers, the grocers tell you that. I don't have to tell you. They told you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Where are the two companies that make paper bags in the state of Washington?
We got Longview.
Both in Longview?
I believe that's right. I can get you more information. We have Tacoma that makes some of the paper bags, and then Longview is the substantial supplier.
Thank you.
Okay, Bruce, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Rolfes, members of the committee. Bruce Wishart here today on behalf of Zero Waste Washington and Puget Soundkeeper in strong support of this legislation. This is one of 4 issues that have been identified as an environmental community priority for 2019. As you heard the sponsor explain, we have a very serious and really a growing problem with single-use plastics, which impact marine wildlife, litter, and cause serious problems at machinery at recycling facilities, shutting them down for hours on end and causing economic impacts there. The bill builds on the 27 local ordinances, as you've heard, that have already been adopted here in the state. They currently govern about 26% of the population. And the ultimate goal is to move people towards reusable bags. As you've heard, the bill does allow for paper carryout with a 10-cent fee. That is retained by the grocers. And from our standpoint, that's very important because in addition to making the grocers whole, it also incentivizes the use of these reusable bags. While there is a fiscal impact here from the education program, I think you've already discussed the fact that this bill will generate about $10 million in new revenue for the state. And I would say in terms of jobs and impacts on the pulp and paper industry, we've seen a couple of studies from Colorado and California which do show pretty dramatic increase in the sale of paper bags after one of these plastic bag ban plus 10-cent fee paper bag use bills go into place or ordinances go into place. So there's still, I think, some debate around that, what the impacts will be on the paper industry. But, you know, our goal is as Bill Stoffger has indicated, to move people towards reusable over time. So with that, I'll end. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. I have a question for Bill. Are your clients concerned about the recycled content mandate or the 10-cent?
It's the 10 cent. The recycled content is, you know, appropriate level. It works in the industry. Frankly, it's the huge cost of advertising on the bag that really drives the bag cost, not just the bag itself. And, you know, that's the kind of cost we're concerned about.
Oh, that is interesting. So it's the cost of printing the name of the grocery store on the bag.
That really adds to the cost.
Huh. Okay, Senator Mullet, and then we'll wrap up this public hearing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess, Bill, when Jan and Holly were commenting, they were explaining how the price of bags has gone up a lot because a lot of these bag bans have really driven demand for the bags. But how does that correlate with what you're saying, in the sense that they're saying the price of bags is going up because people are doing the plastic bag bans and it's driving demand and that's driving the price higher, but then you're saying...
Well, so you heard there's a reduced use of the paper bags. You didn't have to hear it from me. I'm not aware that there's a serious supply demand issue. We're seeing a shortage issue. That's what's going on. It's not a supply demand. You can go to the internet, look for bags that meet the baseline content, recyclable content of the bill. You're going to find price a lot cheaper than 12 cents. You just are.
Okay, we'll wrap this up. Just as an aside, shortage is a supply demand issue. So thank you both very much. And we will close up the public hearing on 5323 and move on to substitute Senate Bill 5259. We've already been briefed on this bill.